This is going to be one of those multi-purpose videos. So I want to do a news of the day, but there's also something else I want to discuss, and I wanted to discuss this coming into today anyways, and today's been kind of mind-blowing. So, yeah, I'll get into the mind-blowing part of it later, and I'm going to not get into too many specifics, but it's one of those humbling days for me. Now, first off, news of the day, kind of part two here. All right. The Islanders have announced they will play at Nassau in the playoffs. They will play at Nassau Coliseum next season. Sounds like that's the end of it in Barclays. And considering the sight lines in Barclays, I 120% agree with this. Good. Nassau Coliseum, it's a better environment. It's a much better atmosphere. And they're no longer in Brooklyn. So that's great news for Islander fans. And fill that arena up. Make it loud. And come playoff time, we'll see what happens. Last year, one of the tragedies was that they didn't play the playoff games in Nassau. Which didn't feel right. It's like, all right, now the games are really important, and it's Barclays. Barclays sucks for hockey. Great for basketball is my guess, but lousy for hockey. Speaking of lousy news, segue kind of backwards way in there. Mike Green, recently acquired from Detroit. Yeah. That acquisition, he's out for the next 3 to 4 weeks with a sprained MCL. This came out right after the video I made earlier, and like right as it was going live, that news came out, and I was like, oh, well, I can't do a video just on that because then it would kind of feel like I'm piling on Edmonton. But this sucks, right? You get Athanasiou, you get Green, you get them both from Detroit for reasonable cost, and now they're both out. One's out for a month. Athanasiou's day to day. It's rough because there's a reason the Oilers picked these guys up. They need players right now, and with Clefbaum out, Green was going to kind of help to protect against what we're seeing right now, which is Green being out. Now, that's a absolute. We'll see what kind of a blow that is to the Oilers, but it basically means he's out for the rest of the regular season. Pretty darn close. We're 36 days from the end of the season, so 4 weeks would be, with about a week left, he'd come back. For tracking purposes, if you're wondering when the last time was the New York Rangers started Henrik Lundqvist, it was February 3rd. So we're 25 days out. So the idea that maybe he'd be rusty if they threw him in the net, oh, yes. And I think the fact it's been almost 4 weeks tells you all you need to know about how the Rangers have moved on from Lundqvist. They see the playoffs as being very much in reach. And according to my power rankings board there, and according to the standings and everything else, it is within reach. And they can't afford to lose a single game. And therefore, they don't view Lundqvist as being the best of two options. Whether it's Georgiev and Lundqvist or Shesterkin and Lundqvist, Lundqvist is the backup. So that's the situation we're in. Georgiev's playing again tonight. We'll see just how many games he plays. But I do feel bad for Henrik in that he wasn't having a bad season. It's just when you get... And this is something I've talked about before. There are no bad goaltenders in the NHL. There really aren't. There are good goaltenders, and then there's great goaltenders. And it's those great goaltenders that make those saves. You go, how in the world did he stop that? Those are the ones that are at that elite level. And the good ones end up riding the pine more often than not. Blake Coleman, his wife had a girl. So congratulations to him and his family on that. And that's a good news story. So I thought I'm going to throw that on the board as a good news story because we certainly need that. But I also wanted to talk about, and this is where the shoehorning comes in. So the channel started in its current form in about 2016. And, late 2015 here and there, there's a video here and there. But it's gone to this level now in 2020. And this past week we saw pretty strong growth on this channel with the trade deadline, which happens every year. And I'm always humbled by it. And I try to make sure this red line is me. That what you get in a 2020 video is the exact same guy you would have gotten in a 2016, just without the whiteboards, without the lighting, the set, and this camera, of course. But it's still, none of this has changed. That's always been my goal. And the subscribers to this channel have been great. Now, there's going to be people who are triggered because I'm wearing the jersey, the Anaheim Ducks third from many years ago, and it doesn't have the laces in it. That's because the laces that it came with, A, they were in upside down, and B, I didn't really like the look of them. They were kind of thin and flimsy. So I look back to these jerseys when they were worn, and they were kind of thin and flimsy laces. But I'm going to replace the lace. I think it looks better without than with the flimsy one it came with. So That's why it's without the laces. But I did find this myself. I found it on eBay, and I'm happy about it. It fits me. That's the key thing, is finding one in my size. And it's been added to the collection, which has been amazing. And again, that's part of this channel's growth. But it hopefully, you watch my videos now, it's the same guy you watched years ago, and I've seen comments on the channel like, hey, I haven't followed your channel for a while. Everything looks the same, like in terms of the content, but wow, it's kind of blown up. I also, Yvonne went down to the States yesterday and picked up packages and brought them home. Now, I didn't know that I was going to be getting anything from subscribers, and therefore I opened them up and I'm like, oh, subscribers. So, first up, this is from Keith. He says, I bought this on the Mitchell and Ness Black Friday sale. He says it's either 2011 or 2012 when they liquidated their hockey inventory, and said this was rarely worn. So this is my first ever Mitchell and Ness jersey, and it is fantastic. It's chain stitching here, and on the inside underneath, right there. Let me just make sure this is visible on camera. It's Bobby Hull, 1960-61. So when you turn it around, it's Bobby Hull. That is fantastic, and it is well made. People have told me for years you should buy Mitchell and Ness. I'm like, I don't really know Mitchell and Ness. This has kind of convinced me. Yeah, when I see the Mitchell and Ness ones online, they might be a little more expensive than the other ones, but they're good jerseys. And then, as well, on top of that, let me move that up there. From David. Just wanted to give you something to wear when you do a video on the U.S. TV deal expiring. I know you and your wife are probably having a conversation. Just felt compelled to let you know Robbie Fabry was drafted 21st overall out of the Guelph Storm of the OHL. Absolutely, he was, and he sent me. And I have to admit, I've seen this online, but I've never had it, so I won't wear this in a video, but I can assure you there will be days. There will be days where that gets worn. And then also, while I was adding that, I got myself a t-shirt because, yeah, of course, because summer's going to be coming, and so I found this lovely deal on Full Moon jerseys. It's like $20 for a t-shirt and a Tuukka Rask, and hey, why not? But I wanted to talk a bit today too about the overall humility that I feel from the support that this channel gets. And I know I've done this before, but today was different in that somebody reached out to me that I didn't know watch my videos at all. So at first, when Yvonne and I were contacted, we both went, yeah, right. That person watches me, right? Sure they do, yeah, because being a well-known person and all, I'm sure that they'd watch me. And then it kind of went to, yeah, they do. And it was like, oh. And then I talked to this person on the phone, and I was like, okay, that's really them. And that's a real thing. And being myself, I said, it'd be great if you came out to a meetup. And he said, that sounds like a great idea. So that would actually be quite funny, because there are people who come out to the meetups that get kind of physical and slashing and hooking and all that, and yeah, it'd be interesting to see what would happen in that situation. For people who are wondering, it's not a hockey player, so it's not a pro hockey player, but it is somebody that a lot of people know, to the point where both my wife and I went, yeah, right, sure, yeah, somebody's trying to pull. Oh, okay, yeah, no, this is a real thing. Oh, okay, all right. And then I exchanged phone calls and texts, and I'm like, that just happened. All right. So, kind of a cool thing, and it is humbling and all of that. And it also, sorry, the TV's pause just decided to not work anymore. Been paused long enough, but it brought to mind too that this person pointed out, said, yeah, there's hockey players, hockey coaches that watch your videos, like National Hockey League. There are National Hockey League managers who know who you are. There's play-by-play and color announcers know who you are. And he said he was right at the forefront, that years ago when my channel first started out, he was telling as many people as possible, hey, you should be watching this person. When they go, who? He's like, yeah, you should be watching the video. So absolutely big time humbling experience. And yes, at some point in time, there will be an occasion where that person likely shows up on the channel, because that was something that was actually suggested by him, and I was like, oh yeah, that's sure, okay, yeah, all right. And it kind of felt like, for fans of The Simpsons, you know, when the comic book guy meets Stan Lee, and then like Stan Lee's just really completely comfortable. Now, I'm not saying, you know, like when Stan Lee just doesn't leave. I'm not talking about that, but it just felt really odd. It felt really odd. So this has been a pretty good week, and I'm again, it's all of that is really humbling. And I said to him, and I'm saying this to the camera now, I do not make videos thinking about how many people are going to watch them, who's going to watch them. Oh, could this end up being out in the media somewhere? Could this end up being out? Somebody, you know, is this going to be my big break? I've never thought of it that way. From day one until now, it's been I turn the camera on, I start talking, I stop talking and turn it off, and I have other things that I do, and yeah, that's it. The day that changes, the day that it is no longer me talking to you people like I would talk to a friend of mine who I texted as soon as this happened. And I said, yeah, so I just got a phone call. And the first thing he said was, cool, is he going to be in a video? And I was like, yes. I said, yeah. And then I felt bad because I haven't hung out with him in a long time. He was actually the best man at my wedding. I haven't hung out with him in a while. So I was like, yeah, we need to hang out. So we're going to hang out this coming week because we haven't seen each other in a while. So that'll be fun. And he's the guy I used to talk hockey with before I had the channel. My old job back when I worked at the call center, him and I would just sit and talk about hockey all day. It drove people completely nuts. And it was one of those things, too, where we could be having a conversation. We would both get a call. So when you're in a call center, you're going to get a call. And at the end of the calls that we got, we then turn around and pick up exactly where we left off. And you see people go, oh, we'd hoped that maybe they'd stop. No, we're not going to stop. That's not going to happen. So, yeah, that'll be fun. And this is... It is odd to me. The whole thing is odd, but thank you guys so much for all your support. Thank you to those who do entrust me with their goods. The funny thing was, this person who contacted me today, the second message, he actually talked to Yvonne on the phone, and he said, so I've got these jerseys that I get, and do you think Shannon would be interested in them? And she goes, yeah. So they are... from what he was saying, that's going to be a whole video all of its own. That's just going to be, these are jerseys I've never seen before, that I've never heard of before. This just my mind's still kind of trying to wrap itself around this. So I appreciate all the support. Thank you to everybody who's subscribed to the channel, and for people who don't have social media and don't hit the subscribe button because they don't actually have accounts, of which I believe he's one of them. Thank you. And I've met people who've done that before, like, I'd like to subscribe, but I don't have a Google account. That's fine, too. Seriously, none of that is of any concern to me at all. And I'm just floored at the support the channel gets. It's weird. It's really weird. So I'm looking forward to being able to meet this person in person, and it looks like it's going to be in about a month's time. When his schedule opens up a bit, and that's about when mine opens up too, because then the regular season's done. So we'll get together then, and then people are going to go, you know, I wouldn't put those two in the same room, and my answer to that would be, neither would I. So yeah, thank you guys so much for everything, really, seriously. And it's been a pretty bizarre and great week. Thank you guys for a really good trade deadline. And again, I do the best that I can. Remembering, of course, I'm one person. Sportsnet and TSN and all them, they have like a whole staff that work on everything, and for me, it's just me. So I do my best to get it as accurately as I do, and if I don't, I admit later that I didn't. For instance, I'll go back to the Claude Julien thing this morning. He was asked yesterday about overplaying Carey Price. I will say this in Claude Julien's defense, he doesn't have a choice. He's in a position where he's being told, we need to be competitive and we need to make a run for the playoffs. He needs to play his best goaltender. that means not Charlie Lindgren, because clearly there's no faith in Charlie Lindgren. Now, whether that's Claude Julien looking at his bench and going, I don't have faith in this guy, or management going, yeah, just ride Carey out, do what you got to do, I don't know. But the Carey Price situation in Montreal is unique because he does get overworked. And when a goaltender's overworked like that, it does negatively impact their stats. I will close on this. I've got the Rask shirt here. Tuukka Rask was a good example of a goaltender that was getting overworked in Boston. Then Jaro Halak comes in, and suddenly he's great in the playoffs. Rask would have those bad games. And while I'm sure Tuukka wouldn't say, well, that was a bad game because I was overtired and sore and being overworked, clearly there's a correlation between having two good goaltenders and being able to go further in the playoffs. I do intend to do some research in that over the summer. We'll see how this year's playoffs go. And just take a look at scenarios where you have goaltenders who've played a ton against goaltenders who haven't, and which teams have fared better in those scenarios. And, and then we can take a look and say, all right, so what's the ideal amount of time that a goaltender should play? And before I forget, because Yvonne's like, have you included those in the video yet? I'm like, no. Because, you do the whole kid face, when I was supposed to do that. From Oilers Rule 07, which is his YouTube account, he sent me these. There's an SP 40th anniversary script of Murray Hall, who was a Canuck their first year. And I had to look him up because I was like, Murray Hall? I don't know. So I was like, oh, okay, so yeah, Murray Hall. So there's a signed one. And then he also sent, because of the posters I've got in the Canucks corner, an autographed Darcy Rhoda. So thank you very much for that. That's now been included in the video. So the next time that Yvonne asks me about it, I can go, yes. Yes, I have included that in the video. Thank you guys so much for watching again. Appreciate all the support. It's been great watching the channel do this. And again, I mentioned this today on the phone. The moment that this line is no longer a straight line and that I start changing everything because of something going to my head, that's a problem. So here's to hoping that never happens. Thanks again, and I will talk to you very soon. Enjoy the hockey tonight.